I once cheated on a bet, story inside, and won some cash. I still think what I did was totally fair. What way have you cheated on bets to win without anyone else knowing? I won a $500 prize for first place in a chili cook-off. I used $99 generic chili spice packets and followed the directions. All this time I thought I was making the chili better by altering the directions. Crap. A friend of mine from high school saw an early airing of The Sopranos one week. There was some online betting site that placed bets on who would die in the next episode. Free money. We were at our favorite Mexican restaurant when I bet my friend Mark $2 that I could drink his margarita without touching the glass or using a straw. My other friend, who was in on the bet, told Mark not to take the bet because I would just touch the glass and use the straw, or just slurp it up without touching it, thereby winning on a technicality. I acted like I was caught, then told Mark that I would make it easier on him. I would bet him $1 that I could drink it without touching it in any way, with any part of my body or using any implements. Mark really wants to see this now, so he agrees. I pick up the margarita and drink it down through the straw. Mark gloats, "What? You lose. You lose." I hand him the $1. Best deal on a $6 margarita I've ever gotten. Let's have a contest to see who can punch the lightest. You go first. They punch you lightly and then you wail on them. Oh, you win. Me and a couple buddies went to some cowboy bar. You know, the ones with the mechanical bull. Anyway, one of my friends is from a farm and loves all that stuff. So I bet him $10 he couldn't ride this mechanical bull for more than 30 seconds. He laughs at me and gets in line. I had no doubts that he could do it. I had seen him do it a couple times before. Little did he know that I was friends with the guy operating the bull that night. I made the cutthroat sign of the bull operator and pointed to my buddy. He was thrown within 10 seconds. I used the money to buy us both beers from the bar. The operator can throw the rider at any point. It's funny when the rider thinks they are in any way relevant to the outcome. My older brother started playing football his freshman year of high school for our terrible high school team. Spring rolls around and my family was going to the spring football game. For anyone who doesn't know, spring football games are commonly intra-team scrimmages at the end of spring practices. I jokingly commented that we would probably win this one and my father started complaining about how they suck and there's no way they would win. Realizing that he didn't know they were playing themselves, I bet him $50 on the game. TLDR. Know what teams are playing before betting on a sporting event. Rolls. I was roughly 19. I had seen an episode of Have I Got News For You earlier in the week, which was then repeated this day. As I came home and saw my mum watching the end of the same episode, I could see she was getting up to leave. I noted idly, "There's a joke after the credits." Just something harmless to mess with her, as she might be entertained by my ability to remember stupid little things, or by watching the last joke. But something weird happened. What do you mean? Of course there isn't. It's over. I was taken aback. My mum isn't usually this adamant about such trivial things, and I don't like people telling me I'm wrong about something I know is correct. I bet you £10 there's a scene after the credits roll. I state expecting her to just agree so we can get on with our lives. By this point the end music has started up. "Okay, yawn," she replies, sitting back down and turning to the TV. I join her. Sudden thoughts running through my head. Why is she so sure? Did I imagine the extra scene? What if it was another episode? What if it's the same one and it's been cut off during reprogramming? So there's me, someone that doesn't gamble, having a crisis of faith next to my tiny and intelligent mother who is awaiting the dark BBC MMVII screen to earn her £10. Instead Ian Hislop pops back on, makes a crack about whoever was the presenter, and order was restored in my head. I told her I'd seen the episode half a week ago and asked why she'd bet against me when I had obviously known otherwise. I guess she was just bored. I bought beer. I sometimes remind her of that day when she questions my actions. She just wanted to spend time with you. I still don't call it cheating, but here's what happened. Me, my friend, J, and my other friend, G, decided to have a beard off. Similar to No Shave November, a beard off is where all participants start growing beards and the first one to give in and shave loses. This went on for a couple months without any sign of stopping, until one night I had an idea. I texted G and said, dude, I'm done. I gotta get rid of this beard. He texts back, I'm not shaving mine until I see some proof. Perfect. I happen to have a picture on my phone from when we started of me, freshly shaven. So I put on the same outfit I was wearing and took a picture of me with the beard. I sent that picture to him with a caption that said before, waited a few minutes, then sent him the clean shaven picture after. So the next day at work, we all worked together. I came in early and I wore a hoodie with the hood up. So G comes in later on and I hear everyone say, hey, looks like G finally shaved. Just as he was approaching my desk, I spun around in my chair like a dang Bond villain, revealing the full beard. G goes quiet for a few seconds, and then, frick. Yeah, that's fair. They had all the information available to them that they could possibly know, but failed to consider that you might have inside information. That's just naive for anyone. Lesson to be learned. Everyone has an ace up their sleeve. My best friend in primary school had a raffle where you had to guess the amount of sweets in a jar. She told me how many sweets there were and I won and we shared them afterwards. Your best friend then went on to manage the Monopoly contests at McDonald's. A friend of mine and I always compete over women. They're usually in just a friendly way. We both meet this girl at the same time, and partway through the night give each other the may the best man win look, acknowledging the start of what will undoubtedly become one of the most stressful and time-consuming endeavors yet. Anyway, unbeknownst to him, I got her number at the end of the night, and began to text her on a regular basis. At one point, a few weeks later, she said she wanted to bring up some inside joke to my friend, and asked if she could have his number to text him. I say sure, knowing that I have basically already won and B, this will only make things more interesting. I provide her with the number, and not 2 minutes later, he texts me with a holy crap you will not believe WHO just texted me. Me. Who texted you? Him. No, you have to guess. Me. I have no idea. Just tell me. This was knowing full well who it was who texted him, and that his competitive nature would likely result in some sort of game coming out of this. Him. I'll tell you what. I'll give you 4 guesses. Me. And what if I can't get it in 4 guesses? Him. Then you owe me a beer. Me. And what if I do guess then you owe me 1? What is this? High school. Let's make this more interesting. Him. Okay. If you can guess it in 4 guesses, I will shave both of my legs, ankle to butt, and you have to do the same if you can't guess it. Me. Agreed. You ready? Him. Yep. Bring it on. Me. Proceed to say the name of the girl who I gave his number to. Him. Frick you so much. Needless to say, he wore long pants for a month straight. When I was in the army, had this one spec 4 that was a fitness buff and one day got into an argument with our platoon sergeant about who was in better shape. He ended up challenging the platoon sergeant to see who could do better in a PT test, which is as many push-ups as you can do in 2 minutes, as many sit-ups as you can do in 2 minutes and then a 2-mile run. Platoon sergeant agrees with the condition that he gets to pick the time and place. Spec 4 agrees and the platoon sergeant says see you out front tomorrow morning at 6. Next morning comes around and we are all out there. They're stretching and whatnot when the platoon sergeant says okay, let's see what you got, so the guy gets set and knocks out over 100 push-ups, well over the maximum. Then he does his sit-ups and again, beats the maximum. 2-mile run, again, faster than the maximum. He's standing there, huffing and puffing after his run, with a big beat that grin on his face. The platoon sergeant says not bad. Let's start the PT test now. I don't know if this is technically cheating, but I had a little trick when playing balls. I would place down 2 cards and call the card that was on top. That way when he called out my balls and checked the card it would be the one I called. Little did he know I was putting down 2 cards, and sometimes 3 if I was feeling ballsy. Common balls tactic for people who are tactical about balls. It works far more often than not. There's a famous story about Michael Jordan doing something similar. He's an avid gambler and notoriously competitive. So, on one flight, he bet some guys that his bags would come out first. Little did they know, he had bribed the baggage handlers to make sure his bags came out first. Hard to say if this would be considered a cheat or not. Drinking one night with some buddies, and at some point the conversation turns jocular, and I get into an argument with one of the guys that I could beat him in a race. We end up setting a date for a 400-meter race for $100, about a month in the future. I'm a terrible runner, and in awful shape. I'm losing this bet any way it happens, so I decide to fake it. This is a time when AIM was big, and I would regularly put up away messages like running or training or something, daily. Made him believe that I was always out getting ready. About a week before the bet, I offer him a buyout of $70, and he snap takes it thinking I've been training the whole time, and knowing that he had not been. Look, anyone trying to point out the incorrect spelling of jocular, you missed the joke. Sorry, your life is so serious. That's called bluffing. When I played rugby, I would always learn a few players' names on the other teams and randomly call them if I was onside and behind them to see if they would pass me the ball. It worked once and I scored my only try ever, and the kid almost got eaten by his coach. He means he learned the names of players on the other team. Brain damage is rather common in rugby players, and would-be rugby players. I was watching the National Spelling Bee a few years back live on TV with my ex-girlfriend. It was down to about 12 spellers and a commercial break hit, so I went to the computer to check email. One of the top stories on the homepage was that a new spelling bee champ had been crowned. I clicked to find out who it was, and then went back and bet my ex that if I could pick the eventual winner that she'd have to give me a BJ. If I lost, I would go down on her. She agreed. I picked the winner and then I collected the easiest BJ of my life. No regrets. My friends never realize that some UFC fights are tape delayed. You would think they would figure out why I only offer up bets when the fight is in the UK or Abu Dhabi. Not exactly the same, but I still feel kinda badass about something I did in high school. I was about 15 at the time, and had braces. The orthodontist would often have monthly contests to win a $50 Best Buy gift card. Well, one of the contests was guess the number of Skittles in the jar. Well, the jar was square, and being the bright high schooler I was, I counted the number of Skittles across the two horizontal sides, and up one vertical side. I then used the formula for volume to make an educated estimation and wrote down my answer. I go in the next month and find out I won. Was off by 5 Skittles. The orthodontist asked how I got so close and I told him. He wasn't even mad. TLDR. Math won me $50. I once entered a Facebook competition to win a limited edition vinyl record from an artist I like. The rules were simple. Whoever comments on the artist's Facebook status closest to 9 PM wins the record. Usually Facebook lists your comments in the format 3 minutes ago, etc. until 24 hours later, where it then lists the date and the exact time in a format such as 3 November 2018. Go check it. So to win this record, I installed a grease monkey script that allows you to view the exact times of comments on Facebook down to the second. I then waited until 5 seconds before 9 PM and spammed about 10 successive comments. I could immediately see I had one with the closest timed comment, and then I simply deleted all the others and waited until 24 hours when the winner was announced, me. Okay, I'm a little late to the party, but here's my story. Before my wife and I started dating in college, we were good friends. Over the summer we were talking online about different food restaurants we liked. She mentioned Red Lobster and I immediately said, "Oh, yeah, I love their hush puppies, of course." As soon as I said it, she pointed out that I was mistaken. Red Lobster doesn't have hush puppies. Well, at this point I had 2 options. 1. Admit I was wrong. Or 2. Make myself right. So I, in one of my more brilliant moves, turned it into a date. They absolutely do. Let's do this. When we get back to school, let's go to Red Lobster and see who's right. The loser has to buy the meal. She agreed instantly, knowing she was right. A month later, we're back at school and set up our friendly wager date. I pick her up and we drive to one of the 2 Red Lobsters in the city. I let her choose which one. Walked in, was seated, and my wife opened the menu and proclaimed her victory. I put on my dejected face and said, "Well, hang on now." When the waitress arrived, I said, "This may seem like a weird question, but do you guys have hush puppies yet?" "Absolutely," she said. "How many would you like? How about a dozen?" "Sure thing." I'll bring them right out. My girl was stunned. The meal went on. I graciously allowed her to pay, and we went back to campus. Once she was back in her room, she called both restaurants and asked them if they had hush puppies and was told no by both places. She checked online. Nope. Red Lobster does not serve hush puppies. It wasn't until 3 confused days later when one of my friends let it slip what happened. I had called up the Red Lobster manager at one of the locations, explained what I was planning to do, then picked up a dozen hush puppies from Long John Silver and driven them to Red Lobster. I met with the hostess, the waitress and the manager, and we reviewed the details. Then I went to pick up my friend and steered the conversation to force her to choose the correct Red Lobster. Boom. That's how it's done, folks. She was so mad that I'd conned her into paying that she literally wouldn't talk to me for a week. But then I won back her good graces and married her. So, win-win. TLDR. Tricked a girl into a date and then her buying my dinner. I refuse to lose, even when I lose. When I was in 8th grade, went to a school in a bad neighborhood and found out a lot of the kids liked to gamble. The main games played were flipping quarters. Both people flip. One person calls whether they are the same or opposite, and tic-tac-toe. I figured out every possible combination for tic-tac-toe in class one day, as well as a technique to win at quarters whenever I wanted. Flip it, catch it, and out of the corner of my eye see which side mine landed as I closed my hand. I could either just open my hand, or flip the coin onto the back of my other hand. No one ever caught on. But I did learn I had to let them win sometimes or they would stop playing me. I really only did it when I didn't have money for lunch. I didn't do it to try and take everyone's money. Not sure how 8th graders would still be confused as to how to play tic-tac-toe. The number of possible moves are so limited that 60 seconds should be enough to never lose another game of it. I once argued with my mom that there was this specific kind of soap in the bathroom. She swore up and down that we didn't have that kind. Little did she know I had stored it under the sink out of sight. Being the smartest I was, I promptly offered a $100 bet to settle the dispute, even though I probably had less than $20 to my name. She paid up and said she would never doubt me on a bet again. Has anyone ever played hook a duck? Basically, there are some plastic ducks in a paddling pool, and you have a fishing rod. You reel in a duck, look underneath it, and there are markings that tell you whether or not you've won a prize. I remember when I was 7 or 8, using the fishing rod to smack the ducks, so I could see the marks and know which ones were worth hooking. I made millions. And then you blew it all on pogs. When I was in university, this frat guy that was quite big and muscular kept on bragging about his drinking ability. It was getting pretty annoying, so I told him I could outdrink him any day. Since I'm a girl and weighed about 95 pounds, he accepted, and we decided the loser would have to clean the winner's dorm room. We both went to the liquor store and bought 2 identical bottles and decided to meet later that night since he was having a party with some friends. I emptied out 3/4 of my bottle and replaced with ginger ale since it was pretty much the same color and went to the party. After about half an hour of doing shots, he started throwing up all over himself. I didn't make him clean my room because I thought he was humiliated enough. I never told him I cheated and he never bragged about his drinking abilities again. Sounds like that guy was an idiot for not verifying the integrity of your bottle before commencing. Way to go. Back in college, I used this bet on dates. I bet I can drink wine from this bottle without even opening it, offer to let them test the seal, shake it to see if wine comes out, etc. After they take the bet, produce a second wine bottle. The first wine bottle has an indent on the bottom that you can drink from just like a glass. Pour wine from the second bottle into the indent, and you win. That little bet has won me a lot of fun sexy times on dates. Of course, it helped that we had 2 bottles of wine. Trivia: the indent on the bottom of a wine bottle is called the punt. I need way more than 2 bottles of wine to get sexy times. For a brief time in middle school, I started cheating while playing Uno. It's shockingly easy, or not so shockingly. You just put more than 1 card down at a time. Note, this will not make you feel good about yourself. We did that with the game BS. Would say 2 queens or whatever, and put down around 6 cards, the top few being true. Even if they called your BS, they'd be fooled because the top cards are what you said they'd be. My uncle bet me I couldn't flip a dice into a 6. When he turned around for something, I quickly turned the dice around into a 6. 9-year-old me felt guilty and I told him what I did. He still gave me the money. Young Romana too was $2 richer that day. He knew. He was turning around to grab $2 from your wallet. Actually, they cheated, slightly. Changing the rules after the money is down is generally disallowed by gentlemen. But since you agreed to it, it basically becomes a faux pas on their part. Well played. So quite some time ago I was talking to a guy who lived on the floor below me in the dorms. We talked about all sorts of stuff and randomly end up on the topic of chess. I love the game, but I've never been very good and didn't clue him in on that fact at the time. Admittedly, I start boasting a bit and, in front of 12 other people, he challenges me to a game. I didn't have a board at the time, so I challenged him to an online game. He accepts, throwing in $20 to sweeten the deal. I take the bet and go upstairs to me room, where I break out the old Game Boy and Chessmaster 2000. He was playing white, so I set myself as white on the Game Boy. Whatever move he would make, I would enter it, and would then counter with whatever move the Game Boy made. It ended up coming down to the wire, but I won. When I went downstairs to collect the money, he had 4 other people around his desk trying to coach him, so I didn't feel so bad. TLDR. Beat some guy at chess using my original Game Boy and won $20. I use a certain card trick to win money off of stupid people. It's a simple find the card trick. If you've done it right, you know what their card is, so you just flip over cards one at a time. When their card comes up, you keep going for a few more cards and then you say, with some cards still left in the deck you're holding, I'll bet you $10 the next card I flip over is yours. Since their card has already been passed, they assume you're going to frick it up, so everyone wants to take the bet. Here's where I do the right thing, though. I tell them not to take the bet, and they still do, which completely absolves me of any guilt. And once they've accepted the bet, I sort back through the pile of cards that have already been revealed, and I flip over their card. Look of utter disappointment is priceless. That's brilliant. I'm tempted to downvote it just to make sure it doesn't get seen by too many people. Screw it. I don't know many redditors. Have an upvote. Reminds me of the time a friend and I were playing 9-ball. The bet was the loser had to drink a glass of scotch, around 200 ml, in one go. We were already pretty much wasted by then. He sank the 9-ball and turned around to celebrate his win with our friends who were watching. I dragged the white ball into the hole and everybody played along. He called me a few days later just to say frick you. One time I was watching a basketball game on TV and I wanted to show my friend a movie trailer about 5 minutes back, so I rewinded it. Well, instead of fast forwarding, I decided that I would just fast forward during commercials and continue to watch, for the time being, what I had already watched. Another friend came in and I decided to bet him $10 that I could guess the next 2 players to score and how they scored. He bought it completely. I won and pocketed an easy $10. Still kinda feel guilty though. I basically did the same thing as Niles from The Nanny did. I taped an episode of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and played it at the right time in front of some guests and told them I could get all the answers right. I still don't feel bad about it though, because not one of them had seen the episode the night before. My aunt and uncle often watch Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy and compete against one another for fun. When my uncle was in Cali, my aunt called him from VAR while he was watching Jeopardy so that they could watch it together. So my aunt wrote down the answers and blew his mind by clearing out the entire board. He eventually caught on, but it's always a good laugh when we see him. I hacked a website that was running a competition, so I was the only winner of a PlayStation 2. A few weeks later someone shouts there is a parcel at the door for me. They had sent me a t-shirt for coming second. A few buddies of mine and myself went to a bowling tournament outside of Chicago. On the way home, one of the guy's girlfriends says she is going to take us to dinner at a place she knows. I had actually been there one time previous. They have a monster burger that I swear sits about 2 to 3 feet high, piled with tons of things. The last time I was there was with a family reunion, and afterwards, I hadn't eaten all day, and I ordered it, and ate the whole thing. I knew I was going to order it again when I go there but didn't tell my buddies. I sit down like it's the first time I've been there, and we all talked about there's no way it can be done. Of course. I specifically said to them I'll bet $50 I can do it. They all agreed, but I told them I wanted 3-to-1 odds. They all agreed. I'm about halfway through the burger, and I stop and say, well, pay up buttholes. My buddies all look at me like I was crazy. I also had them sign a napkin that said Brad cannot eat this entire burger. They all say you didn't finish. I said, oh yes I did, and I have proof. I asked the manager to get the photo album of the people who have finished it. Only a few people have attempted it and actually finished it, so he flipped through the book. Sure enough, there's me, with my t-shirt and picture that says I finished IT. They tried to weasel out of the deal, so I finished what was left right in front of them. They paid me. I used to play lots of basketball. 1 stroke 2 hours a day after high school and around 2 hours at college just working on moves. I used to play some pickup games or 21 in college. Anyway, there were a few guys much better than me, but most were much worse. One day I was playing one-on-one with this kid Adam, who really wasn't very good. To make things interesting, I bet him $20 that I could beat him playing Lefty, shooting. He didn't know I'm kinda ambidextrous. I beat him pretty quickly and took the $20, but I felt bad after. But it was kinda cool because some of my buddies were watching and I felt like I was being impressive. I'm a show off. Playing poker once, I saw the guy at the table look at his card and mouth silently the word jacks. By the river I had 2 pair. Highest card on the table was a 10, so I pretty much took all his money. He was a good friend, so I told him afterwards not to mouth his hand for all to see. God dang fish hooks, hard hand to play. The guy that I used to work with had a very serious gambling problem. It was so serious that it almost cost him his marriage and his job. We were talking about James Bond movies. He bet me that Her Majesty's Secret Service was the first James Bond movie, which I knew it wasn't. I told him it was Dr. No and he bet me $500 that he was right. I knew that he had a serious gambling problem, so I made him change the bet to $5. We looked it up on the internet and lo and behold, Dr. No was the first James Bond movie, as everybody knows. He broke out in a cold sweat and thanked me profusely for changing the terms of the bet. If he had spent the $500 to pay me, he probably would have lost his house, as that was his house payment for the month and he was way behind. He got help after that, and I got a free sandwich with my $5. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.